Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. People will probably come in a little later and some might have to leave a little early. Feel free to do whatever you need to do. Also feel free to help yourself to anything over there on that wall. It is absolutely delicious. Would you guys not agree? Adria does a wonderful job. The Cater Box does a fabulous job. We all know that because we love them from the market, of course, and their wonderful breakfasts. So, yeah, right. So I just want to, welcome you all for being here, and thank you so much for being here. But also, we were talking about you, Adria. Saying how amazing your food is, and we just thank you so much for all you do, and for the breakfasts and everything else. So I did want to let you guys know that we do have a Zoom option going on. So we do have some vendors that are attending by Zoom. So I wanted to let you know that we're running that over here. Also, we have some park board members here, which I'm thrilled about. So raise your hand, park board members. Yes. Woo! So it's always great when your board members are involved and active in what you do and support us in that. So we just really appreciate that. Also, a lot of you probably don't realize, but a portion of this plan was actually, a majority of this plan was supported by the Redevelopment Commission. And we have Kathy Lucid here, who is a part of the Redevelopment Commission. Kathy? So we appreciate Kathy being here to show her support. That is truly amazing. We appreciate that. So just wanted to thank those people, and then also just want to say thank you so much for the vendors who are taking your time to be here today and learning about the plan. And a lot of you were a part of this plan. It's taken a couple years to get this kind of off the ground, it's important, and so we wanted to take the time to make sure that it had everything in it that we needed in it for the market and for the market to grow and prosper. So we do appreciate everyone being here. And I also wanted to highlight that Jess is here from Reed, who's a partner of ours, and our Reed Community Benefit matching dollars that we have from SNAP. We couldn't do what we do at the market without it. Would you guys not agree? I mean, we benefit tremendously, and so does our community, from those SNAP dollars being doubled. And so, Jess, if you'll raise your hand. So our major partner, Reed Community Benefit, we just really appreciate their support year after year and being able to double those dollars. And that is a huge opportunity for us and for our community to have. So thank you again for that. So, am I missing anything at all that anybody can think of? Okay, the restrooms are behind you, so don't hesitate to do that. So this is kind of exciting because we wanted this to kind of be an interactive presentation as well. So I'm going to just kind of give a shameless plug. So if you have your cell phone and you want to text to 2233, this actual word here, which is TSWD, which is Taylor Seifert Williams Design Group, 633 to this number, then you can kind of be involved in some of our active information that we'll have going on the screen. So it'll ask you a couple questions, and then you'll be able to text that in that opportunity when it comes along and asks that question. And so it'll be kind of fun and be a little interactive for you. So, any questions at all or anything that I can help with? Okay, well again, thank you for being here, and I want to introduce Katie. So, Katie is a one-of-a-kind. She has been a true blessing for us as the Parks Department and the city in general. She's helped design our comprehensive plan and also our park comprehensive plan, our gorge plan, and now our strategic plan for the market. So she knows a lot about your city. So, you'll be surprised. You think you know a lot about your city? She knows a lot about your city. She's dove into it, knee deep, figuring out every demographic you could ever think about. She's talked to a lot of community members, a lot of vendors, really just dove into the research end of it. And, she's done this on multiple fronts and multiple communities so that she can also be able to highlight and have that research and that expertise to bring to us as well. So, you know, this is something that we're very proud of, to be able to have someone like this in our corner, to be able to give us some expertise and some knowledge on the front of farmers markets, and kind of see what other farmers markets are doing as well, where we can kind of grow, how we need to grow from here. And so she's got some insight on some of those things, and we really appreciate all the time and energy she's taken and her team has taken to put together our farmers market plan. So thank you, Katie.
That was a great intro, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for kind of rescheduling today. I'm going to stand up for as long as I can, and then I'm going to sit. I'm like 3 weeks post back surgery, so I'm going to do the best I can. We were trying to do this earlier, so I'm glad we could all come here today, enjoy some great food, take advantage of what is kind of some nice weather in our fall spring. But I am excited to talk about the work that we've been doing specifically related to the market tonight, and take kind of your questions and hear kind of your thoughts and ideas as we go throughout the presentation. So I'll throw this back up there one more time in case somebody didn't grab it to begin with. The link, kind of the texting portion, should work perfectly for everybody in the room and on the Zoom. If you have kind of any problems, you can also just shout out your answers when we get to those. But it is meant to be a little bit kind of an interaction, hopefully keep the dialogue kind of going and make sure nobody falls asleep on me. So that's the goal, especially after the wonderful snacks. So Denise gave me a great introduction. My name is Katie Clark. I'm a landscape architect and project manager at Taylor Seafer Williams Design Group. We're a landscape architecture and community planning firm out of Indianapolis. That's my youngest daughter. She has been a visitor to the market and enjoyed many of the tasty treats. So I am kind of very knee-deep in the community. I personally have been working in the city since 2018, starting with the comprehensive plan, and through that process met Denise, and then the world has been different ever since. So we're always excited to kind of lend our knowledge in different ways. And so this was a really exciting opportunity for us too, as well as hopefully for this group and for the department. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm always excited to be able to kind of help Denise and all the people she works with bring ideas to life. So the first, I don't know why it's like throwing it up weird like that. I tested it, and of course I didn't do it when I tested it, but it should still work. Our first kind of interaction, through that texting, you should be able to kind of text through kind of your one or kind of a hyphen word if you want to add a couple. But what's kind of that one word that would describe the farmer's market of today? And if it works correctly, we should start to see something pop up on the screen. Yay, it's working. And you should be able to add as many thoughts as you like. So we set it up to where it wouldn't kind of max you out. So I'll let it kind of scroll a little bit. And while some of that's popping up, I'll tell you kind of, I've been a visitor to the market a few different times. So throughout our effort, we did a couple different visits seasonally to kind of just see different opportunities. And through kind of our other efforts, we've just intermittently stopped by to grab a dinner before a meeting, and visited kind of the Tuesday Twilight Market. So it's always been kind of fun to not only experience it as a visitor, kind of an attendee, but also from the standpoint of kind of looking at it through a more strategic lens about what is occurring, what are the great things, what might there be room to improve upon. So it's great to kind of start to see where your mind is about kind of what the market maybe appears to you, what your perceptions are. And I can give you a little bit of view into my thoughts. The first thing when I sat down to do this presentation was kind of the idea of vibrancy. Knowing that kind of spring is coming, that played into it. I was soaking up the sun, I think, in the last couple of days. But every time I not only come to the city, but had come to the market, there is kind of an energy in the room or in the area. And it's not just from kind of the beautiful colors of the food or kind of the items that are being kind of sold and on display, but even the people. So interacting with kind of you as vendors and seeing the people and the way they interact with you creates kind of a really positive energy that I was really kind of struck by. Second to that, especially kind of growth at the surface of the market, it makes sense, right? But when we started to dig into the data side of things and really looking at the districts, there's been a tremendous amount of growth. So that's one of the things that really resonated with our team as we worked through this process, and just kind of the amount of almost grassroots work that has gone on and the growth that you've seen from that. So to be able to capture that and kind of maybe put a little bit more kind of strategic thought around things, just how much more growth could happen. And then lastly, kind of the idea of excitement. So all those come together, I think, create a lot of kind of energy and excitement amongst the people and amongst kind of the department, and really just everybody rallying around this idea. So those are kind of the three big words that were from our standpoint that we can kind of marry with the thoughts that you had. And it really kind of set the stage for the work that we started to do probably about a year and a half. We were talking about this earlier. It's been kind of a great process, but slow, so we're excited to kind of now show all this work that we've done. But kind of as a starting point, and thinking about kind of how we built the plan and how we started to look at things, it's important to realize kind of the unique structure that the market has. So we looked at a lot of different organizations, a lot of different programs, and there's not many that have the market kind of nestled within a city department. Oftentimes they're kind of their own nonprofit or their own kind of organization separate. So you're unique in the way that kind of the city and the Parks Department kind of create that structure for you and help serve you in terms of kind of staff and oversight. But then it's really kind of up to you as vendors and up to the market, kind of to be in the market itself to kind of generate those benefits to both the communities and to you as vendors. So it's a very interesting kind of interplay between all of those parties. And it really kind of created an interesting thought for us that it's not, the city obviously and the department want to do everything that they can in their power to make sure the market is as successful as it can be. But to some extent, they can kind of only go so far. So, and then it's really kind of up to kind of the work of you as vendors and up to even kind of the community to kind of bring even more of that excitement and life into what the program would be. So our work today really focused on kind of what can that city arm do, and then really, hopefully, the dialogue can continue with how you as vendors can participate and still how that growth looks moving forward. So some of what I'm going to start with here, it's not going to be news to you. When we start to think about kind of the importance of markets and what they offer, this will be kind of our second. See, now it's going to be all weird, so I might have to show it in a different way, or you won't get to see all the choices. It's still not going to work. See, my tech is messed up.
You could tell us the choices.
That's gonna require me to remember what they all were. Maybe instead of, we'll just kind of shout out.
Down. Is that the
No,
scroll?
it's not.
Is there a scroll in a second?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. It's all right. Would anybody want to offer maybe their thought on kind of the way that the market serves the community as a whole? Anybody brave enough to throw their idea out? If not, keep going. It's okay.
Beyond the two that you got up there.
Yeah, you can expand on the two.
Okay, just like, not those two or just those two?
There's lots of options. You can
I think one of the ways that it serves is it becomes like the grocery store of like where people gather and socialize, and you can't walk through the market without there being a group of people standing there who haven't seen each other, or so like a small town market.
What you can't see that is you got it right. Anybody else before I keep going?
I just
I
think the
will.
keyword local, I mean, just
Love
the
it.
fact that food is not traveling very far.
Yep.
For me, it provides the opportunity to provide what I make, you know, because I feel like being creative since I'm retired. But I don't intend to ever have an Etsy store or an online store or a storefront.
Mhm.
And so it's a place for me to go to do my thing, you know, just as, you know, there are some businesses that also come with their stuff, but, you know, it's a place for people other than that to go.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah, I think it really provides people with kind of an organic grocery store, if you will. they know, again, the farmers and all that good, the people behind it. And I'm not sure, really, now that I think about it, if there's anything else in the community that quite provides that. And there is a lot of people that I didn't realize until I become a member of the market, that really want just that.
Well, all those choices.
It's not coming through, right? It's not sharing right on the Zoom.
Let me try to reshare it. Hold tight. Technology is hard.
We're also operating off of a hotspot. Dawn's cabin does not have Wi-Fi.
We're gonna do the very best we can. See if this fixes it. Is that better? Yes. Okay. Maybe there was just, it needed to think about it for a second.
And one of our online vendors, micro business incubators.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those were really, I think, everything that was mentioned, I promise, was a choice. And it is, the market is all that and probably even more. We could have an even further discussion over more snacks about just even more opportunities that the market has. And so what we tried to do in our process is really think about that, not only kind of the idea of a market in and of itself, why does it matter, but why does the market here in Richmond matter the most, and what are those local impacts? And so we highlighted really just a few of the key kind of, more of the primary things that resonated with our team and kind of the work as we continued through. And it really does serve as that kind of local economic driver. So we talked about kind of the local food, and through kind of the process we did surveys of vendors, as well as kind of looking at different kind of locations where people were. And overall, the products and the produce and everything that was coming to the market was really only traveling probably 0 to 10 miles. And I know kind of the markets that I have near where I live, I can look at kind of that map of where things are coming, and it's much greater. So it is kind of creating that very localized economy. And in thinking about kind of the vendors specifically, if you remember kind of taking that survey that's been probably a year and a half ago, the majority of you were saying that it is kind of your primary way of selling or sharing those products. So while it may not be your primary source of income, it is predominantly that way that you're sharing kind of your interests with other people and the gifts that you have with other people, which really is kind of creating that localized niche in the community that I think really people are striving to find and really appreciate. The second one, obviously, if we think about kind of markets as a whole, and especially here, I'm happy to kind of show a map later, but you're supporting kind of that agricultural community. You're filling in kind of what is otherwise kind of, in many areas of fresh food desert. A lot of people don't have access to this type of produce or this type of kind of product. So it's interesting to see kind of the makeup of what agriculture looks like across the county. And a lot of kind of what's classified kind of as producers or farmers countywide, a good portion of them are kind of within this new and beginning farmers category. So you think about kind of that localized kind of small economy that you're creating, and you're really kind of supporting what could be new entrepreneurs of a sort in this agricultural world, and kind of adding a lot of benefits as you think about that. It also does a lot on the social side. So if you think about kind of the locations where the market is, kind of at Mouser Plaza, Sargenet, in and around not only those kind of sites themselves, but kind of within, kind of near downtown, potentially kind of hooking into other shops or other entities, it creates foot traffic. So on a really nice, beautiful day, you stop by the market, maybe then you continue to kind of walk around, and you might find another business or another way that you want to interact with the city. So strengthening kind of the way the market performs and the way people interact with the market really has the opportunity to greatly increase additional foot traffic to other areas of the community as well. Certainly kind of the winter market is a great example of kind of leaning into the heritage and the great assets that you have. So using kind of the market as a way to preserve whatever that heritage might be. It can be kind of historic kind of structures and reutilizing those for great purposes, but also the idea of kind of cultivating this rural kind of agricultural character that many people like. It's kind of a great way to start to stitch together all of the facets of what the farmers market has to offer. Certainly, I think we heard that it provides that community interaction, so it's not unheard of, especially maybe as an attendee. I'm stopping by and I'm having a conversation. I know my husband did this with one of the knife makers. Like they had, I think, a 15-minute conversation about kind of the work and how it transpired. And so you get to know kind of the local history and kind of those stories that people are bringing to their products that they're offering. And so it really sparks different conversations, different relationships amongst people that maybe otherwise wouldn't have had those opportunities outside of the market environment. And then lastly, kind of as Denise mentioned, it's providing kind of access to fresh food for people that maybe wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity. That's definitely through kind of the SNAP program. I know the white on like the light background may be hard to see, but we've analyzed kind of the amount of benefits that have been received and just the massive amount of growth that has happened since that started. And it's really tremendous in the way that that partnership has worked out and kind of the role that the market has taken over for really the whole county to kind of fill that food need for people. And so those are really just kind of 6 kind of big ideas that came to us, but like I said, we could go on and on about kind of both the big and the small kind of impacts that the market has. And once we kind of, started doodling around on what the market is today, you get to that really long list, and then you start to wonder, well, man, what else could we be? We're already serving all these different roles, we're creating all these great relationships. What if we kind of just put a little bit of extra elbow grease into something or thought about things in a more strategic way? How else might we be able to grow, and who else might we be able to serve? And that's really why we all, I think, kind of on the city and the department side came to the point of meeting and having a strategy to make a plan for the market. So we got another question, it's probably not going to work either, so yeah. And so much for trying. But anybody have a thought, and if you attended maybe some meetings that we had previously, you might have a little bit of a heads up, but how do you think this strategic plan could help the market? Any ideas? You get a little snippet of like 2 to start with, but.
That's why I'm here, because I didn't quite understand the purpose. So.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll assume that it's going to try to help focus us in a direction or 2 directions or whatever to accomplish the goal. But to me, it's a focusing situation.
Can we speak up? You can't hear.
Yes, you can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, I just couldn't hear the other speaker.
Oh, sorry, it was somebody from the crowd answering my question of what the plan could do, and it was kind of along the lines of providing kind of guidance and oversight and more of a strategic focus. And somebody offered they weren't sure, which is an absolutely fine answer too. So I think definitely part of it is to provide that kind of guidance and thought. So I'll kind of give a little bit of context around how we got to the point of deciding to kind of create the strategic plan, and then kind of go through a little bit of thought on what we hope the plan can do. So we started in 2020, as Denise said, creating kind of the overall Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We did a lot of work, a lot of community outreach to get to the point of kind of coming up with this 5-year strategic vision. And so what's on the screen right now is that vision department-wide. So you think about all the parks the city has, all the great amenities, all the trails. How can we think about all those in a very holistic, kind of proactive manner? Through that process, we really kind of continually came back to the big idea that the city has a lot of great assets. There's a lot of strong history and a pretty rich legacy. And so we really wanted to take advantage of all of that and not necessarily recreate or create new, but take those great assets that we have kind of build upon them, invest in them to make them as great as we can. And while we're doing that, making sure we're making investments, making improvements in a way that allows kind of the system as a whole, the department as a whole, to be very resilient and sustainable. And I think that doesn't necessarily, while green kind of friendly sustainability is certainly a part of it, but a lot of it came back to the idea of making sure that kind of the department of itself can continue to act proactively in kind of an efficient manner, using funds that they generate, kind of reinvesting. That's the idea of kind of this resiliency and sustainability that we continually had through that process. And then kind of pairing that with the idea of making sure that we're providing active spaces, inclusive amenities, as well as diverse programs. So all in all, really big picture idea for everything that the system can be.
Screen sharing issues,
Oh,
so I'm
no.
trying to move so that they can see, but I don't let me backwards now.
Well, I got it internet unstable message, so I wonder if it like dropped me off.
It's lagging.
Okay. So to kind of start to reach the point of, from that big holistic idea, we generated a lot of different kind of criteria as well as short-term investment ideas, kind of small reaching projects to keep momentum moving forward. The farmers market continually came up on that list as a way to think about an asset in a way that we can kind of do a little bit of, I'll use kind of investment in a really broad way. It doesn't mean throwing money into it, but thinking about it strategically more along the lines of investment. And making it kind of work a little bit differently for the department as well as for the people that utilize the program. So that was really kind of reinforced when our team started to dig into the data side of what the market is today. So a lot of these numbers, unfortunately, are probably a year out of date. We kind of took, I think, probably a 4 or 5 year tally for a while. And then when we kind of did this kind of number crunching, the market continued, and I think we probably tracked more data, so we can update it certainly and probably look even better. But overall, you can start to kind of look at revenues, vendor fees collected, number of participants, the amount of SNAP kind of redemptions that occurred. You can start to see the tremendous growth that was happening on a lot of different fronts. So that reinforced the idea that the market really is an asset, not necessarily a physical asset like one of the park properties that exist, but it's kind of a really successful program that a lot of people have rallied around and really made work with the limited resources that were made available.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What is that 31.18? I can't read it.
It's the average number of vendors for the summer market. That was
Okay.
2021. Yep.
It's just the way the angle is, I just can't see that tiny writing.
Yeah, and so then the 18,000 was kind of the total vendor fees collected during 2021. And then the larger number at the bottom were the vendor sales that were reported by the portion that not everybody reports them. So kind of taking into account the number of vendors that reported that. That's the total amount kind of sales for 2021. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So in addition to kind of the metrics that the market team kind of keep track of, and there's even more, they've done a really good job of kind of starting to track different things to set everything up so they can continue to track that and see kind of the change moving forward. We paired that with surveys from vendors as well as the community, which we'll see that in a second. And that really started to give us a feeling of not only how long people had participated, gave us that idea of kind of how people were selling, how much were they selling, and how much were they relying on the market as a part of their kind of their localized kind of personal prosperity economy, if you will. So that's where we get kind of the 53% were vendors located directly within Richmond. So that's driving kind of the locality of the produce that people were excited about. That 83% we talked about earlier was kind of the primary way that people were selling their goods. And that 47.4 was the number of vendors that responded that had been a part of the market for over 5 years. Which really starts to show us that there's a personal investment from them as a vendor. It's not just necessarily something they hop in and out of, depending on kind of what their personal interest is. They're here and invested in the community.
They can see it now, but they're just having a little hard time reading it because it is small, so if you can just continue to read what the numbers mean, that's super helpful. Thank you.
So then, kind of, as I said, we paired that with the community survey. We asked similar themed questions, but wanted to understand from an attendee perspective, what are people liking? What would they like to see? What maybe do they feel is missing? So we could try to create this kind of more comprehensive view of what the market is and how people are perceiving it. In total, we got, I think, about 120. During that time, I think a big group of surveys was lost in the mail, so I think more people took it. But overall, we started to see a lot of consistent trends in the way people were telling us they used the market and the way they kind of experienced the event and the program on their own. So that 86% of respondents were really people said that they just attended the market to support kind of the local vendors and the producers. So they were actively participating in that localized economy, and that's what was important to them. 45% of those responses attend the summer market on a weekly basis. So we can see on the vendor side that people are very invested, obviously with their kind of long-term commitments. Well, obviously on the community side, their investment is there as well. They're showing up every week. They're active kind of participants in kind of that exchange. And then that 47% is what people told us that the market is important to their own quality of life. And so that tells us a lot that it's not just a one-off program, but it's something that people are relying on, and it's something they appreciate having within the community. And that potentially if it wasn't there, they wouldn't feel as fulfilled, or they would have to kind of travel to maybe fill that void. And then the chart on the side, the right-hand side there, we just started to inventory kind of what products were of interest, just to kind of see across the range if there was kind of a big gap, if people were looking for something different, or if maybe something wasn't as prevalent as they would like to have it. So at the end of the day, we had a lot of charts, we had a lot of survey responses, a lot of information, and we can kind of sum it down to a set of strengths and challenges that this plan needed to kind of take into account. So this is where we get to the why we're making a plan. On the strength side, you guys probably all know these items. Obviously the historic ties to the community, that investment on both sides. There's great facilities and sites now where kind of the market has grown and started to call home. The vendors provide a really comfortable, friendly community. And the market itself is unique in that it's kind of this growers only market. You're kind of select in what you'll allow, and kind of just the way you make sure that there's diversity across kind of the offerings. And then when you look on the challenges, it's difficult to even call them challenges because it's really just kind of things we could refine. Nothing is really a huge kind of stumbling block, and that's really kind of what brings us to kind of where we wanted to kind of plug in and work to refine and move forward. So we want to kind of look at a couple of different things that we've heard. Probably everything on that short bulleted list came from kind of some conversations we had with vendors or the survey responses. But it's looking at kind of making sure we're staying true to that kind of growers only definition, making sure we're being consistent in what those offerings are to really protect the integrity of what we're saying the market is. And then looking to kind of really kind of look at attendance, how can we encourage participation, how can we make sure people are valuing that attendance, and how can we really drive that attendance up to make sure that not only you as vendors kind of see that benefit when all the vendors arrive, but that the participants, the attendees, are appreciating that vendor diversification attendance as well.
I've got a couple questions from the chat.
Yeah.
If you want to pause now.
Yeah.
The first one was, could those numbers be skewed at all due to COVID in 2021 and 2020?
Yeah, so we have more information in the plan, and when we get to the end, there's a link, everybody can access it to dig into it. But yes, you'll see there is a dip, both up and down, depending on kind of what you're looking at in terms of how people were able to utilize the market, access things. So they're a little bit, I hate to say skewed because that means it's totally off, but it is odd because every data point now is odd because of 2020. So.
And then there was a question if we'd ever considered additional locations for the market to give other areas of the town, access to SNAP benefits, and being able to utilize the market. Wondering if we had ever considered more pop-up remote locations.
Did it not come up in our process? I don't know, has it come up with?
There was a pop-up last year, but
Yeah, but there was like a farmer's market
And we've
week
done
one,
it,
right?
yeah, and we're doing that this year.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot in the works this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 And the look on the south side, there's a line point from that, it's a total push down there. And all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely something.
Probably something we'd be looking at maybe for the upcoming years. We look to do more pop-up style markets.
But you know, when we were at the senior center, which I would consider the south side, we weren't as busy as what we are now at the Stargenet. Just to say, I mean, just as someone who participated in the senior center market. Do we have anybody else here who did senior center? Yeah, would you say we weren't nearly as busy?
Right, correct.
Yeah, that's what we are at Stargenet. So that makes me wonder on the south side, kind of what people would want and where they would want us to be.
Good question. Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Anything else? No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to stop me, I can see the chat.
Yeah, that's fine. I know. I'll kind of wait till there's a break so that we're not
Yeah.
interrupting too much.
If anybody else in the audience has a question, feel free to stop me. I'm happy to kind of pause and answer questions as we go. There's a lot of data to kind of boil it down to really kind of the main driving points that got us through kind of the planning process to kind of the recommendations that I'll highlight here. If you think back to that diagram of how the market functions in terms of kind of the city and the Parks Department as kind of the home, if you will, and kind of a sponsor, the work that we tried to do in the plan is make sure that those partners were doing everything they could to strengthen the market in the best way. Not in any way is the plan intended to kind of dictate what you as a vendor are going to contribute necessarily. It's really just to kind of provide tools and practices for kind of the administration team, the department as a whole, and really to think about kind of the way those sites and facilities, so we think about Elstro, Stargenet, how those facilities can respond to what this growth is starting to look like, and thinking about kind of the market in a way that would allow for more of a self-sustaining program. So it's really trying to maximize what the city and the department can do to make the market as strong as it can be, and then allow kind of the community and the vendors to kind of rally around that to support kind of those ideas in their own specific way, if that makes sense. But at the end of the day, everything, like I said, not trying to kind of dictate necessarily. It's more about what can the department and the city do to maximize the benefits to you as vendors and maximize the benefits to the community. So the more exciting part, the recommendations. So our planning process took place kind of over a couple different cycles. We kind of stretched everything out so we could see kind of seasonally what was happening. We did a lot of inventory, so that's where we came to visit and interact. We did all that data analysis, and we did a lot of kind of conversations with not only vendors of the market program, but also from different case study communities to understand what other people were doing and what might be a good fit here. And all that kind of boiled down into kind of big ideas, goals, and specific actions. And there was kind of consistent outreach through all that. We tried to tie in all the other outreach that we've heard from our other efforts that we participated in, just to make sure that we weren't overburdening people with multiple questions, but that we were really trying to tie together all the information that we've heard. So at the end of the day, the plan, which we have some copies of up here, really kind of goes over a lot of what we talked about before, kind of the benefits of the market as a whole, all the way down to kind of what are specific action items that should be considered and the ways that those can move forward. We have a lot of good kind of case study, lessons learned from things that we've heard about or seen, so we've tried to fit that in so that Denise and her team and Hannah have kind of resources to go to and how they want to start to talk about big ideas, lessons they can pull from other people. So the whole plan is intended to not just be kind of a set of information, but it's meant to be a tool to connect them to people to move forward with. So all in all, there's kind of 5 guiding principles. If you attended kind of a meeting probably this time last year, you saw all of these, but these are really the guiding goals that we kept in mind for everything that's in the plan. And it's rooted in kind of those big market benefits that we talked about at the beginning. So everything we do, we want to make sure that it's supporting kind of this idea of the market as a set of entrepreneurs, as that economy, and make sure that we're really keeping true to that idea of generating sales and supporting kind of the growers and the marketers and all the artisans within the community. We want to make sure that we're giving that access, that equitable access to kind of not only the goods and the services, and to make sure that everybody in the community, and the community is really kind of countywide with the way that Richmond is situated within Wayne County, so making sure everybody has that opportunity to purchase quality local food, as well as homemade goods. Harvesting the community.
Could you say not only countywide, but I mean, I think we attract a lot of people from Ohio too.
You do, yes.
So I would say over the state line
Yes.
also.
That's fair.
We've even taken SNAP cards from other states that work, I wanna say like as far as, is it like Pennsylvania or something, that, yeah.
Georgia has that same SNAP program and they double them down there too.
We've seen some for sure.
So,
We want to make sure that, as somebody said earlier, the market kind of provides that community gathering place. So everything we do in terms of enhancements or additions, we want to make sure that we're continuing to kind of serve in that role, give people a place to come, feel welcome, and feel like they can interact with one another in a safe way. We want to make sure that we're kind of working to promote and stimulate the economic development. So that's not only with you as vendors and your businesses, but how can the market support adjacent businesses, whether that be within downtown or even within kind of a short walk of where the market site is. And that could kind of serve with maybe some pop-up markets and kind of where you would put them, kind of thinking about maybe locations in that sense. You're just kind of adding a new kind of piece to whatever that business environment might be, and the two should really work hand in hand. And then lastly, kind of we want to make sure that we're marketing and promoting kind of all this good work that's happening, the growth that's existing. We want to make sure that the community has this really strong awareness and appreciation for the market as a business, the habits that come with kind of the growers only, the healthy eating, really kind of wrapping all of that up into kind of a really strong message for the community, so that everybody continues to understand and acknowledges the benefits that exist for having kind of this strong, great market that you do. So those are kind of all the warm-fuzzy pieces. When you get kind of down into the plan itself and how we intended it to be used, there's a set of information that go underneath every one of those kind of guiding principles. That's really intended to be kind of an ongoing set of guidance document, like goal statements, objective statements. So I think we've even seen them come into play over the last kind of 6 months to a year. Things are going to continue to evolve, right? We'll always come against different opportunities, different challenges, different questions that people have just as the market grows. So there's information in the plan that can kind of serve as that checkpost. So if a new thing comes up, it's intended, you can kind of look through there and be like, oh, I can make a decision based on kind of the ideas that are listed here. And it's served in that function already, I think on a couple of different items that I talked through with Denise and Hannah. So that's going well. The rest of the plan is really intended to be kind of more action-driven in ways that kind of the department can really take a little bit stronger arm in kind of adding some efficiencies and adding some additional kind of oomph, if you will, to the way that the market is managed and overseen. And all of that, when you put them together, is intended to kind of fund or fuel what could be long-range, more capital improvements. Because we're trying to think about ways to utilize kind of the funding capacity in the way that the market works to become more self-sustaining, maybe earn more revenues to be able to fund kind of physical improvements that would benefit the market. So we have kind of, I think, 4 key sets of like those action recommendations, things that I think will start to maybe take focus in the years to come. They're intended to be relatively low resource type of improvements that would really kind of drive additional benefits for everybody that's involved. So the first one, the idea is really to merchandise and market. So the main idea, there's a couple different ways to think about that, but our recommendation was to really think about kind of creating a set of standalone tools that might be separate from the city's webpage as a really consistent way to keep communication and marketing moving forward, to make sure the community really understands what's being offered, what might be there on a weekly basis, potentially kind of provide ways to interact with the market team or with vendors as a whole, really just creating kind of a really consistent platform to share information and connect people. The other side of that is to think about on the revenue side, while the website is likely free, right? It's not going to generate any revenue, it's more kind of a communication tool, information about all of these vendors to the community. Thinking about kind of gaining revenue, really working hard to kind of create branded pieces that people may want or need or could find a use for at the market. So Denise has her great t-shirt on, it's a great example. But some of that already exists, so to think about how that can be expanded upon, potentially working even with local artisans to make kind of a fun t-shirt line or a fun kind of logoed cup or whatever kind of that product might be, and offer it for kind of a low investment where a portion goes to kind of the market program, the rest would go to a vendor, creating that kind of dynamic partnership that, again, is supporting kind of both sides is really the idea. Nobody's meant to kind of take one for the team. It's really to think about how can we magnify kind of our communication and our messaging to everyone in a way that we're all going to win at the end of the day. Second to that, kind of leaning more into kind of the revenue side, there are sponsorships and kind of fundraising partnerships that exist today. So we wanted to kind of see what would it look like if we worked hard to expand that, to be more proactive with that side of developing kind of what those relationships can be. So we provided information on creating kind of more of a sponsorship program that offered different tiers, different sets of benefits, as well as different kind of price points that could be kind of marketed across the community or even region-wide, depending on kind of how far the draw is that you're trying to reach. So within the plan, we provided kind of a sample of what that could look like, different kind of, like I said, those price points. And then kind of what you would get from that. So we're not just out asking for money, we're giving things in return to allow people to market their business or their organization or whatever that might look like, and then being able to tie that to the great new communication platforms that might exist to really kind of create a pretty comprehensive program that generates revenue for the market program, but again, gives back that benefit to whatever that company or vendor or organization might be. The third set is really kind of honing in on the operations side, and while you're probably all looking there like, vendor fees, don't raise that. That's obviously kind of the obvious piece if we're looking at revenue, but we didn't stop there. We didn't want to just kind of inflict that and say that's the answer. Instead, we thought about it a little bit more broadly to think about not only like how can we increase participation, and how could that increase in participation mean an overall increase in the fees that were received. So we looked at a lot of different kind of ways that we could do that. And one of the tools that we provided is a different way to think about kind of the overall layout of the space. I know kind of especially the winter market is constrained, like you're coming up against kind of capacity and you can't kind of squeeze any more space. So we tried to think strategically about not only how could we lay out booth space, but how could we kind of add in maybe a new tier that would allow people to kind of select their preferred spot or their preferred size, if they want to go bigger or if they want to go smaller, and how might that impact what participation and rates may look like.
Did you also look at parking with this? Because we run up against, I think, the parking restraint more than we run up against space times for us.
It came up in the chat just now too about needing more handicap spaces at Star Jeanette.
Which is spaces.
Right, I know, I'm just tagging on to what you said.
I mean, I think that, obviously Star Jeanette has 88 parking spaces, that's how many they have. Like,
They have 88 parking spaces, but then we fill in the other sides, right? And so then when there's big markets, we have overflow parking across the street. Whether people want to park there or not, that's up to them. We have overflow parking downtown, but people want to park the closest proximity to
It's
the
a
market.
walking problem in Richmond, I understand
Yeah.
that. It's not a parking problem, it's a walking problem, but that's what we hear, is more about the parking problem. So that's great, if you have more vendors, people are gonna gripe about the fact that they don't have a place to park close.
Sure.
So what suggestions do you have? Did you look at that as you were looking at this piece?
So we did not, yes, we did. There are kind of a listing of like physical site improvements that could be considered at both places.
Okay.
To facilitate, whether it be more efficiency, better flow. We got into kind of building conditions that could be improved at Sargent based on some of the things we've heard. So certainly that is a piece.
Okay.
It's kind of in the final one, kind of the, if we're able to make these efficiencies, potentially raise a little bit more money, we can then use that money to invest in some of those pieces. So we tried to solve the easier ones first if we could, because certainly, to Denise's point, the parking lot at Sturgeon is a challenge. It's, you have to build more and the land is limited.
Well, if
so
you
yeah,
go parking
it's-
across the street, there's only truly 6 spots over there, if you really look at Veterans Park.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the next logical spot would be the health department
Correct.
lot, which is close. So, I mean, I just think that's, I used to work on college campuses, it was always a walking problem, it's never really a parking problem, but I know we are lazy Midwest Westerners around here. So,
I'm guilty of it.
I'm going just down from one place in the mall to the other place I'm gonna drive. So,
Yes, yes.
like, I just think that, great, we add more vendors, that's fabulous, that's a fabulous thing to do, but we've gotta think about that other side too.
What's
Before
the
we
issue
lose.
with that area that's right outside the big doors? I've asked.
that grassy area there,
What's the issue? Meaning, why can't we use it?
Yeah,
the parking lot.
As
Pave
a
it
parking lot?
it's right outside the big doors that everybody comes into. It's right there. It's all empty. It's
Well,
all
part of the
grass.
problem is that they have to be driving down the lanes that people are walking down. It's a safety concern because people are trying to pull in and out at the same time that people parking in the lot are walking into the building. So you're driving on a walkway.
Well, that could be solved with signs. and
Yeah,
things.
designate.
We don't drive on this one.
The lawn, it was designed for that lawn to actually be an event lawn. So the Sturgeon area, if that's what you're speaking about, that actual lawn there is an event space. So people can get married there can be additional event space, and any market vendor is, it's cold, but you're welcome to set up outside, they just choose not to.
It's not really a lawn, it's the place that's got parking, like concrete on it, all cracked up and.
Oh, yeah, that area is not accessible for parking. No, that would not be an option. We would have people getting stuck, we would have people driving over the Walk of Fame, there would be a lot of issues in that.
Well, I'm just
particular
suggesting
area.
it could be paved and used as a parking lot.
There is a plan in place for the gorge activation plan, that is actually, it's gonna be a totally different area.
Something else.
Yes. But it's a good thought.
Well,
And
yeah,
I
it's the
appreciate the
closest-
thought,
it's
yeah.
the closest,
Since the market is getting bigger, could we consider a nonstop city bus shuttle from a certain parking lot, veterans parking lot, over just constantly for the 3 hours? That would take care of the, how'd you phrase that? The non-walkers in the Midwest?
I said it meaner than that, but
Yeah.
That is definitely something we've talked to transit about.
Okay.
I think we've provided our own vehicles, Hannah's provided her own vehicle to shuttle people, but to your point, we talked to transit about just actually transporting
Right.
people to the market as a bus route.
Yes.
We've just been down transit workers at this time. We're hoping to get to capacity in the city to where we can have that bus route again, to get them to the market on a Saturday. They just took that route away, and they're hoping to maybe bring it back at some point
trying to find those ways as well.
Just even a shuttle from the health department to the Star Jeanette area, you don't have to have a route.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a bus to run, say, park at the health department, the shuttle will just go back and forth.
Exactly, exactly.
And ferry people just, you know.
I mean, it would just be an extra expense.
Yes.
That, you know, we would have to incur every single Saturday with a chartered bus, you know, and then someone driving it.
Are there that many people that aren't getting to park? I mean,
I don't know that answer.
I don't hear people complaining about the fact that they haven't got to go to the market because they haven't been able to find a place to park.
People tend to create their own
I
spots.
think they make I think they park where they need to. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to maybe circle back through again or something,
Yeah.
and to make it work.
I mean, when we have the big festivals, there are some,
Yes, I can see that.
some, you know, concerns.
Yeah, I mean, people park all around the edges.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they definitely make their spots.
But it is definitely a bus option, would be something that we look into, for
Well,
sure.
or encourage people to park at the health department. It's not that far of a walk. I mean, going up that hill's bad, going down the hill's
They
not.
won't, they won't do it.
Yeah,
Some people will,
not very many. Okay, sorry, I
No,
went over that.
You're fine. It's a good segue to kind of the last set of recommendations. And it really is to kind of look at the specific physical investments that would be needed to really then kind of amp up or think about kind of improvements that would allow the market to continue to grow. This last one is kind of outside of the low resource. It would take some kind of physical investment and capital investment, but we think that kind of they can be planned for in the long term and thought about, and then hopefully kind of as revenues increase, that can be reinvested. So we heard about a lot of different things. There's listings in the plan, but we put together some kind of just warm, fuzzy conceptual pictures that start to show some of them. So we heard about kind of gating at Elstro to kind of control kind of the flow of traffic and people and everything a little bit better. So we just started to think about what that could look like, how that could be used and placed, not only for the site itself, but how it would look kind of during a market day.
We grew our trees so fast.
So, and I really like Bearsville. I love Bearsville.
Bearsville's really cool.
Yeah, I've looked at those pictures so many times, now that you point that out, those are really tall trees.
But they're really mature. That's like 30 years.
Like,
That's
so
pretty
they're- To really then think about kind of the, you know, the success of the market, and when you put in kind of this extra effort, just think about how much more active it can be, kind of interaction of people, having kind of more vendors, offering more opportunities and different offerings, would really create a really kind of dynamic place to be in terms of a program and event, but also really kind of fill a need within kind of the community and the region as a whole. Then if you think really big and broad, and think more about kind of, you know, more parking improvements, but think about kind of how the market could even be kind of expanded to become kind of more of a seasonal destination. So on kind of a Saturday morning, we know in the winter you can go to the market, but what if that became kind of even more kind of an event space, especially when you start to pair it with some of the other work going on, specifically within the gorge or anywhere around the city, like you can start to kind of see how you can knit things together to really kind of continually build upon kind of the investments that are happening to really create great places in the community.
Like with the eclipse coming up too.
Yeah. I'm excited for the eclipse. So my last question, and we can, if anybody wants to kind of either respond online or in the room, but hopefully this gives you kind of a better sense of what the market can be. You know, we started off with kind of your current ideas and perceptions. Maybe they're a little bit different now that you're seeing some of the more strategic direction of how the department and the market team is going to try to help. And hopefully that maybe puts your mindset in a little bit different view. And it's a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, and I have a quick question before I leave. Are you going to send that link out to our regular list that you said sent to for emails? Okay, thank you.
take any other questions. You can also scan with your phone, that link, it'll take you to the plan stored on Dropbox. I'm sure Hannah can send it out after the fact. And we've got some hard copies we can flip through. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Anyone right now?
Have we ever talked about your shopping hour,
Oh, that's a good idea.
an early bird type thing, where they would have access to easier parking and in and out?
I think that's a good idea. It could be a way to solve a parking perception problem. A phased approach.
Like, literally, put it out there, and they make it all complete. And so it's important, because you know they're going to be there, and you want them to be there.
There's also a question about considering expanding the market hours, just considering some people, particularly with children, are not always up and moving before noon on a Saturday.
And some people work till noon, so they're doing
So real quick, before we take some questions, I just want to, before anyone else leaves, I just want to make sure that I pay special attention to and thank appropriately Hannah and Christy, who take every single Saturday out of their life to make sure that the market is up and going and ready to go, and the Tuesday markets and everything that they do, they pour their heart and soul into this market, and I just want to make sure that I thank them for everything they do, because the market wouldn't be the way it is without them. So if you could join me in a round of applause.
They do an excellent job.
Yes, they do an excellent job, and you know, I will say that there are plenty of times when they do get taken for granted, and they are not appreciated at times by some people. And so, you know, we really appreciate, I just want them to understand how special that they are to the market and what they do for the market. I do believe that they're in the right positions, and they're going to take us a lot further than we've ever been before. And so I really appreciate everything that they've done. And so I also wanted to highlight, because obviously they're my two special things of the market, but also I feel like I need to share some other special things that I've felt about the market on a number of occasions, and things that I've witnessed. Obviously, I've witnessed vendors partnering with local business owners, because that's happening. And I've also witnessed several vendors helping other vendors on a regular basis. I've also witnessed vendors supporting vendors on a regular basis. I've also witnessed vendors who were not set up that day at the market, but they come to spend their dollars and their time and their energy because the market means something to them. So I've witnessed that. I've also witnessed vendors inspiring journeys as they're on to share, and other vendors that support them as well. So I've witnessed that. I've also witnessed the energy that's provided at the market that can't be found anywhere else in this entire city. And so that is so inspiring to me and why I do what I do. And then I witness everyone coming in the market smiling. So that is something I think sometimes vendors don't see, but they smile. Every single time I'm there and I'm saying hi to every single person who walks in that market is happy to be there. And this is the only market, I believe, that serves coffee, that serves breakfast on a Saturday and is open year-round, and provides the activities that even surround the community things that we're doing. So like, for example, just the other weekend when I was there, we were providing meltdown activities, and we're partnering with the partners in our community just to make sure that we have connections. And so I think that, you know, we have everything that we need to continue the growth of the market. And we have such a good opportunity to be so successful with just those small little things that I'm seeing. They have such a great impact in this community, and we are such just an amazing market, and I'm so thankful for everyone. So I know that we have questions, and I know that we have answers, but I know Hannah has some things that she wanted to share as well, so I want to make sure that she has time.
I don't know how you follow that, because everything right about the market I could possibly ever say. But thank you for that shout out. I also want to give a shout out to Denise, just because of your nonstop support and speaking on the market, 2 weeks ago when I was sick and I couldn't make it. Denise steps in and makes sure that everything goes smoothly. So thank you to Denise and of course Christy for everything that she does to help support the market as well. I love this market. I'm here and I love being a part of it. It is my full-time job, so I do a lot of things behind the scenes every week to make sure that everything goes smoothly. I try to keep everybody's best interest in mind, and when I took over this job, I knew that I wanted to make sure that we incorporate as much of the community as possible, so we have those overlapping resources, and to gain more awareness to all the great things that you guys are offering and have in the market. So I really looked at some data between 2022 to 2023 because I'm a data girl and I just love to see that that growth there. So between when I started here and where we're kind of at wrapping up 2023, we actually saw a 15% increase in SNAP sales and an astonishing 32% increase in vendor sales. So what that actually means that is in 2023 we made over $300,000 in vendor sales, and not everybody reports those sales. So big pat on the back to all of you vendors that helped boost that local economy and made over $300,000 in sales for 2023.
And that's just what's reported.
Yes, we are averaging about a 70% sales rate turned in for the market. So if you can imagine where we're at with 70% showing over 300,000, where we'd be at if we were closer to 100. And I would really love to show the community. Look at the power of the farmers market that you guys help us provide to the community. So with that, we were also voted 2nd in Indiana for top farmers market, 7th nationally, and that's astonishing as well to see those numbers. We hosted 4 gardening workshops in the winter to help provide some education to our market goers. We had 6 big event days. So those were just very big market event days to help incorporate the community. We partnered with over 20 local nonprofits and organizations to help bring resources to the market as well as providing activities to kids that wanted to come. Thanks to Little Shivas, we provided 3 cooking demonstrations for Tuesday Twilight markets. We supported over 12 local musicians with our Tuesday Twilight music series and over 10 during our winter markets. So that's just some numbers that we saw over the last year. And the other one that I would just like to wrap up, it was mentioned that we saw an average of 31 vendors in 2021. And in the summer, we saw 40 season pass holders and 32 daily pass holders. So you kind of see that growth there with vendors as well. So I just think, looking at the market by numbers, like I said, I'm a data girl, so I really love looking at that. That's where we're growing in that aspect. So thank you all for joining us.
How do you explain the growth in vendors? Do you guys recruit, or is it word of mouth, or what do you think?
I think it's a combination, and we've seen a huge increase just in the past winter.
Yeah.
I wish I had an answer for that one. So I don't know if it's just excitement.
A lot of them are customers, turn vendors.
Yeah, I was going to say that we actually have a lot of customers who will come up during the market and say, what does it take to become a vendor? I make this product, and even Michaela, who just left, I asked her today, what made you join the market? And she said, we just shopped there and started seeing that we might have some things that we could offer, and now it's just become our thing. So.
Because I think there's been fantastic growth just since I've been involved. I don't know, about maybe 5 years. I don't think that's the primary thing we need to work on. I think it's logistics, parking, and that sort of stuff that we need to really take a more serious look at. I think the vendors and the growth almost happens on its own, by just osmosis.
And one of my biggest goals right now, and a lot of times when I speak to growth, and I've mentioned this a few times, but when I speak to growth, I don't mean
growing in vendor numbers, because that, like you said, that's not the most important number that we look for. We want to see growth in the community, we want to see growth in the resources, we want to see growth in your sales, and I want to see growth in, you know, quality over quantity type thing. So, don't want to scare everybody by the word growth, because I don't mean, you know, absolutely like branding, but
You kind of police that before you approve someone as a vendor, I would assume.
We also try to keep the market from getting oversaturated with a certain type of product,
Right.
you know, because we know that people don't necessarily want to come in and see 5 or 6 of the same
Right.
types of booths, so that's something we take into very careful consideration as well.
And
so, yes.
I have a question, and you touched on it, since we're mostly vendors here. Why have we not highly promoted the fact that we were 2nd in the state and 7th in the country? I mean, to me, we should be screaming that.
We had radio ads, we had social media blasts, we had newspaper articles, and we had billboards.
Yeah.
So if somebody didn't
Billboard?
see it,
I didn't see the billboard.
yeah, if
Okay.
somebody didn't see it, I don't know what they were looking at. But we also will get those billboards, and we're hoping to hang it at Stargenet. We asked for them when they get taken down, which I think they were just taken down for the February turnover.
Yeah, because I mean, truthfully, that's news to me, because I had other vendors talk to me, and they're like, why aren't we promoting this?
You know, we try to throw it in there even on like some of our random posts and things like that we share, but that just goes to speak to one of our challenges that we have, you know, when we're talking about marketing, is reaching all those little pockets to make sure that we're pushing that word out as much as
I
possible.
think all you need
So-
to do is hire Henry Freeman as a marketer.
And there's people like Henry, absolutely. I mean, we're grateful in the aspect that we have vendors that are so vocal and do that for the market. So another thing that I want to touch on here with this growth that we have, you know, obviously you have me, you have a market coordinator, Christy, she's a coordinator assistant, and we have 2 interns that help with the market. But among this, you know, this growth that we see, we are looking at wanting to appoint an actual market advisory board. So every month we do have what we call the market advisory board that comes, but it's always been kind of a public meeting, and that's something that we will still look at continuing to have. But I would like to have a set number of people that I look to for that guidance, so we can rely on that month to month. And we have made an advisory board application, which they are up there, if you would like to fill those out. So the role of this is just similar to the advisory team in previous months. Is just to provide guidance and advice to benefit the market as a whole, which has been the goal of the market advisory teams. We just want to set more of a consistent board, so that when we look for advice, we have consistent people that are there and they're showing up. So if you know of anybody, whether it's vendors, members of the community that would like to be a part of that board, we are looking at accepting applications for that to hopefully instill that and have something going by next month.
Are you still going to have the advisory team, or is the advisory board going to knock out the advisory team?
So that will kind of take place of that, and then we will have the open meetings, you know, probably not every month, but kind of as needed when I have stuff to report on the market. But then when I need that like sounding board, that solid advice, those unbiased opinions and things to make sure that we're growing and we're prospering the way that we want to, that I have that set number of people that I can turn to.
And how many are you looking for? Do you have a set number you want on the board?
No, we don't right now. We're just hopefully going to find a good balance depending on the applications that come in.
We kind of see the board reviewing more of the, you know, application review, rules and regulations, requirements as we kind of grow and modify our guidelines versus the open meeting, which would just kind of be general, this is what's happening in the market. So it would truly make it a little bit more of an advisory board, you
Right.
know, designated members, designated meeting times,
Rather than
versus
just
an open
updates.
meeting and updates.
They should also understand the plan, be able to follow the plan in the next 5 years and try to help with the goals and aspirations of the market and outcomes.
So
And
anybody
it's
have
not
any
limited
questions?
to season pass vendors either. We would consider anybody who sees themselves being with the market for, you know, a good amount of
Also
time.
market goers.
And market goers,
Yes.
yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, I know we talked about parking and everything, but has it been brought up about, trying to make the building a little more comfortable for the people that come through there?
So,
Tell me about what you mean by comfortable.
Okay, well, the plastic on the windows blow when it's windy, all that cold air comes blowing in there, people saying they're freezing, they're trying to get warm, and those big plastic things, through there, if we had a petition or something where they walk around it and come in to help keep all that air from coming through.
Through the big door.
Yeah, through that big door.
We're right in line with that.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what Katie was referring to in terms of like, we only have so many funds. So, the city kind of takes this on, obviously as, an umbrella. And so there's only so much we can do, especially during the market. We winterize that building just for the market. And we try to have other people rent that facility, but in the winter months, it's a little hard.
But have you ever thought about even just volunteers coming in and doing work, professional volunteers? Because I know one person that he's just excellent when it comes to building,
Well, and, you're welcome to send him my number, and he's more than welcome to contact me if he has some ideas. We always use volunteers. I mean, we would never turn them down. But we can talk through that a little bit more.
But even with the windows, if the plastic was just made so it would stay there and not blow out, I mean, plastic would be fine too. It just needs something to.
Yeah, well, so what we did was we obviously researched ways that we could make it so that it can be an open air in the spring and summer, and then obviously in the fall and winter it can be closed off. Those are the opportunities that we had, so that we could be able to have the winter market in a adequate sized location, because we researched a lot of places.
To hold it down and then roll it up in the, when it's hot, or just,
And it should be secured a different way.
Yeah.
We'll take that into consideration.
Cold in there.
Velcro doesn't exactly stick to brick, so there's just a few little things, we can take all that into consideration, but
that was just.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It is cold in there, and I know we've lost some customers because it's cold, but Oxford, Ohio has an outdoor market all year around, and I literally mean outdoors, in the snow, with pop-up canopies like we have in the summer. So if you look at that market and think about what we have, we're doing pretty good. But I still understand your comment.
Yeah, it's not
because
horrible, it's just that
it would be nice if it was a little more consistent temperature. I understand.
It's just one of those logistics things that might be improved upon.
Yeah.
Well,
So the more it makes, the more it can feed it back into it, correct?
What was that?
So the more that, it generates, the more it can go back into it as a.
It's called, it's a non-reverting account, so the more money we make at the market, the more money can go back into the account. And so, we subsidize, the tax base subsidizes this market, subsidizes by salaries and most of what is done at the market. At some point, it needs to be a self-sustaining fund, at some point. So, there's a non-reverting account is never supposed to not be sustainable, and so there has to be some movement on that. And so, just know that we have to do our due diligence to make sure that our goal is to make sure that the vendors prosper, but also we have to do our due diligence as a tax entity as well that oversees the market. Does that make sense? Okay.
Still cold.
I was very cold, and it was a warm day. But we also just, we also had, it takes a lot to also keep those heaters running, and it also takes a lot to keep the fuel in the tank. Luckily, we have First Bank that supports our fuel. I mean, there's a lot of things I think that a lot of people take for granted, and we get the sponsors and make sure that we have the fuel, and then of course the the heat, that, there's one heater that's not working, so obviously we're waiting on a couple parts on that, so, we have to run a lift to be able to get up to the heater. I mean, it's just like, you name it, and I could go on and on, but we do the best we can for our market because we love it.
I don't think we take it for granted. We just see places
Or
where
we hear what
everything's
people,
taken
you
care
know,
of. And you ask.
So is it separate things that happen during the summer, like the more you rent it, does that go back into, or is that completely separate?
It's completely separate.
Department?
Yeah.
So it has
So
to
when
be
it's
all market
rented-
driven, everything?
Correct.
Good to know.
But if you, just like any place else, if you kind of help cut off that cold air, you're not going to run a heater as long. You may not have to use all the, propane type heaters and whatever they are, that type of stuff. It's just like any place, if it's, winterized better, it's going to stay warmer a lot better, so you're going to save that way.
It's a big brick thermal mass, so it's gonna, to get it
Yes,
heated, it's gonna
yes.
take such an effort that I don't think no matter what we do to it, is it gonna heat it. I hate to be that person that says that,
concrete
but
floors,
it's a
yeah.
giant concrete, we have to heat it to like 70 degrees.
We
to
had
maintain it.
contractors come in and actually do an assessment on the building, and, that's why radiant heat was the way to go, and that's why they assessed and said, this is how many heaters you need in this area, and the reason why it takes so long to heat it up is because it has to have the mass to heat. This was the right way to do it in this particular building, but until you get the people in there and get everything in there, it's going to be cold, especially in January and February. Those are going to be your coldest months. You're lucky this February, but you're going to have, months that are going to be a little treacherous. You're going to have market goers, they're going to come in, go out, they're going to get their goods, and they're going to be out of there. But you're going to have vendors who are freezing to death because you're there the entire 5-6 hours that you have to set up and go.
That doesn't bother me.
And so,
People are here, but
yeah.
complaining about being so cold.
I don't think it's the heaters, it's the drafts.
Yeah.
The windows, and the door with the flat things on it, we sit right in line with that door, and, when somebody comes in, it's just,
Or comes to the window.
so, it's just the drafts coming in, the cold air is just coming in, It's not that the heaters are, not the right kind of heaters or anything like that, it's just, and it is cavernous in there, no doubt. It's hard to eat, no doubt. But when you've got drafts coming in everywhere, that doesn't help.
What, you could almost promote that as the
Hold on,
building
Jerry.
is heated, but
Hang on.
it's not necessarily.
Sorry, Stacy was figuring out your question, right here.
I just wondered if we could do some adult events, and I love all the kid things we do, so I don't mean that as a negative, but if we're looking at something, can we even do like a coffee tasting with Julie, or a wine tasting, or something that would maybe drive people to the market to see some things and try some
That's
things
great.
that aren't
That's a
there.
great idea.
And then everybody would still do their shopping, and it would be like a perk thing, or
We
something
try to
else
do a
with
lot of
other
kid
vendors.
things because we try to keep the kids distracted so that the
And I think
parents can
it's-
shop.
But
But you,
great family things.
Yeah.
I love it.
but I like that idea.
I think that's a great idea.
Now
Yeah,
that
and
COVID is over, maybe we can do more sampling. Well, it's not over,
It's more of a health department thing.
yeah, that's not our rules or regulations, it's a health department issue. But no, I think that the ideas on some adult programming would be something that we could definitely look at. And anytime any vendors have, any ideas, of course, you're also more than welcome to come to us with those and also help out in any way.
How about karaoke?
We get enough,
Instead of
we
a
have
band,
enough
why don't we-
music.
Outside.
Instead of a band, why don't we have karaoke?
We don't have vendor karaoke.
What
contest.
were you gonna say, Jerry?
Thank you. Sometimes you just face it head on. It's not exactly warm in there. It's not toasty warm in there. So even if you advertise it, come on to the Richmond Farmers Market. It's heated. It may not be toasty warm, but the vendor smiles will make you happy and warm you up, or some such thing as that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let them know it may not be perfectly warm in there.
We do.
Okay.
We tell them, bundle up, the smiles will warm you, the
Oh, do you really?
coffee is well. Do you read our posts?
Apparently not. After hearing what I said while ago in this, apparently not.
I'm pretty sure that one of my posts specifically said, though, the warmth of gratitude took out any chill in the air.
Yes.
All right.
We do, we play on it a lot.
We also want to make sure that you got the QR code. We're going to send out the actual plan so that you guys can all have a copy to review. We will also get with Eric to make sure that you can have a copy of this through WCTV, but don't forget to watch WCTV if you want to be reminded of how wonderful tonight was. And I also want to make sure that we thank Katie for coming all the way here and doing a wonderful presentation for us and everything she did for the market plan. And then also the Cater Box, Andrea.
And there's the bell boxes.
Oh, heck yes.
Our saving grace, who always is wonderful, and I would say the best friend of the market that we could ever have.
Yep.
And best foodie. So we appreciate her. We can be available for any questions or any sidebars that you guys might have on your way out, but we do appreciate you being here. And again, we'll send out copies of the market plan and then send out copies of WCTV when it airs.
And grab a market advisory board application if you're interested.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, WGTV, Channel 11, part of the Whitewater Community Television family of stations.